Hello, everyone. Welcome to another wonderful episode of Chidera's Corner. And today's topic, we are discussing expert tips for entrepreneurs in terms of financial freedom blueprint. We have an amazing guest here for you guys. His name is Paul, and I'm about to put him on the stage, guys. And so I'm excited that he is here. He has a lot of nuggets for you guys. He's an amazing investment strategist. He's also an amazing, dope African in the diaspora here in the DMV area. Has worked in, he has a really great, vast portfolio as well. So I'm excited for you guys to meet him today. Round of applause for our special guest. You know what? I know that there's a way to add like a clap or something.
Mhm.
One day I'm gonna figure that out. welcome, Paul. I appreciate you being here with us.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, your background.
Thank you so much, Chidera, for bringing me on the platform to really share. Now I get to really share my experiences as far as investments is concerned and how each and every one of us can take advantage of our own financial freedom and aspirations. So, a little bit background about myself. I would say I started off in Africa, Ghana to be precise. I had my very early education in Ghana. Then I moved to the United Kingdom, and then I moved back to Ghana, and then I had my degree in Ghana, and then went back to the United Kingdom, had my postgraduate degree in global strategy, worked with a couple of firms in the UK, and then I moved down to the US, had another MBA in finance with strategic concentration in portfolio management, equity, fixed income. So anything that has to do with investment strategy, right? Currently, I work with a global firm as the investment strategist, building and constructing different portfolios to optimize investments for our clients. So I work on the institutional side and then also work with retail clients. I have a business which is PA, accounting, and tax advisory, where I advise people on different tax strategies and how they can optimize their tax savings and build wealth for long term. So that is what I would say about me briefly. Yeah.
That is amazing. Man, you know how to say don't toot your own horn, but this is accepted. This is the kind of tooting of horn that we need to toot.
Oh my
So toot
goodness.
toot, you know what I'm saying? So Paul and I, we actually met at Starbucks and he gave amazing insights on the finance world and investment and just financial growth, and we had a lot to share and talk about there. And so we said we had to bring it on here for you guys to learn more about. So let's begin today's discussion on financial blueprint with expert tips for entrepreneurs. Let's start off with what exactly is financial independence? Because we're all looking for that. Entrepreneurs, most of them get into their business with the idea of this is an avenue or venture that's going to help me gain financial independence. What exactly is financial independence?
Great question, Chidera. So financial independence, it's a very subjective topic, right? People look at financial independence from different perspectives. So, in other words, what might be financial independence to me might not be with you. However, what I say is the benchmark for financial independence or freedom is to ask yourself three questions. The first one is, do I have investments? That's number one. Number two, you need to also ask yourself whether you have liquid cash. So I'm talking about money saved in the bank for emergencies, for anything that would happen to you in your business. Do you have money set aside? Then the third one is, do you have money to kind of pursue the kind of lifestyle you want, right? So my lifestyle might be different from your lifestyle. So we need to customize our lifestyle and then ask ourselves, can I pursue the kind of lifestyle I want to pursue? Now, if you are able to answer these three questions, then I would say you are on a trajectory of building financial independence. If you are not, then that is where you need to start putting things in place to be able to achieve these things. Unfortunately, a lot of us, there's a huge gap between the kind of lifestyle we want to see and then our current states. So I guess
Mm,
today's discussion is about how do we breach this to be able to see the kind of lifestyle. So I would say financial independence is basically about having investments, having cash, having multiple streams of income, having
right.
businesses that generate the kind of cash flow you want to be able to pursue the kind of lifestyle you want. So the benchmark, the most important thing here is the lifestyle. So am I in
Yeah.
a position to pursue that? So if you are, and this things will help you to pursue the kind of lifestyle that you want to see.
Amazing. No, that's dope. I appreciate that definition. So then when we talk about the, first of all, analyzing your lifestyle, what kind of lifestyle do you want? Budget is the word that comes in mind as well, right? And then for entrepreneurs, what are some practical steps that they can take to create a budget now for their business, in
Mhm.
terms of, their venture to getting that financial freedom, using their or leveraging their business as that? How can they better budget or effectively manage their businesses, budget and things of that sort?
Yeah, Chidera, you know what? Budget is a very important critical thing. And a lot of us, what I say is if you fail to have a budget, then you've already planned to fail already. So if you don't have a
Mm,
budget, let me repeat that again. If you fail to plan or to have a budget, then automatically you've already planned to fail. So budget is an important aspect of every entrepreneur. And then I will encourage every entrepreneur to have a budget because when you have a budget, you put yourself in a position where you plan for the future. If you don't have a budget,
mm-hmm.
you are not future focused, all right? You don't know what is going to happen. You are living in the moment. But when you have a budget, it affords you the opportunity to plan. So the first thing I say
Yeah.
is you need to draw a budget. And in drawing a budget, you need to ask yourself key questions. So the first one is, what do I want to achieve, right? As a business, as an entrepreneur, where do I want to take my business to? What is the next step to take my business to? When you define your vision clearly as to where you want to take your business to, then you can now ascribe a budget to where you want to go. So, for instance, what I say is you can start off by digging deep into your history, financial history. And what I mean by that is, and this is what I say, for us to be able to know the future, we have to know what went on in the past, right? And for us in financial modeling and investment banking, we use this strategy a lot for us to be able to predict the market, for us to be able to predict a business growth and all that. So I work in private equity, and in private equity, we invest into businesses. Now, for me to know this business will do pretty well, I have to go back into time, right? Assuming the business has been performing quite some time, I need to look at their history. And so, as an entrepreneur, you have to go back into history and try to understand what has happened to you in the past. You need to analyze your financial statements, your income, your expenses, your revenue, your cash flows. When you do that, you have a clearer picture as to where you came from as a business, where you are as a business, and where you want to go as a business, right? So key things you also need to look at is you have to determine what are the streams of income for my business. For instance, if I run a rental car, uh, is it, and I know rental cars are very seasonal. So you can say, okay, in summer, I need to draw a budget for different streams of income for my business. And let's say the segments for my business, where do income come from most? If it is during summer, then you can allocate more resources. Do I need to buy more cars during summer to grow my business? So when you start drawing this budget, it gives you a clearer picture as to what you need to do, right? Another thing that I will encourage entrepreneurs to do is to have a distinguish between their fixed income and then their fixed cost, and then there are variable costs. Now, the fixed costs are things like your labor, cost of rent. These are fixed. Your variable costs are things that change over time. So you need to have a distinction between what are your variable costs, what are your fixed costs, so that you can efficiently allocate resources, right? And then you to grow your business. And another thing you would also want to do is to look at elements of cost. A lot of businesses,
Mm,
I've dealt with a lot of entrepreneurs. And in my space, cost is a very important aspect of building strategy or growing your business. When I work with portfolio companies, so portfolio companies are companies that we invest, we take money from the banks, from private equity sponsors, and then invest into companies. I would also want to
nice.
look at how you efficiently bring down your cost down, right? So you have to figure out what are some of the cost elements that you can easily do away with, and then streamline those costs. Because as a business, there are three drivers of profitability. It's either to increase your sales, it's either to
Right.
increase the price of your item, or to cut down costs. But I can tell you,
Mm,
businesses that find ways and means to cut down their costs have found to be much more efficient than the previous two, which is increasing your sales. Because now consumers have become very sophisticated, where we are very
yeah,
particular about cost, about the
for
price of
sure.
services. So we always want to go after price of goods and services that are relatively cheaper. And then that would also offer us the same value as against I'm going for another product, right? So
Right.
you have to find ways and means to cut down your cost. And you can start doing that by prioritizing your costs. What are some of the costs you can do away with, right? And start getting them out of your line items. And then before you realize, I mean, you are just building that part for sustaining your business and then growing your business as well. So these are some of the few tips I can give on how to really deal with budgets and expenses. Now, another important thing I want to add to it is that
Mm-hmm.
you would also have to always go back to the drawing board. After planning
Yeah.
the budget, you have to go back to because budget, it's what you envision. Now,
Right.
when you start running the business, you start seeing the actual numbers. So you have to
Yeah.
start adjusting, right? Oh, I do a budget for this thing. Now, this is the actual cost, but this is the actual revenue. Then you start adjusting. That will also allow you to really plan, I mean, in the future.
Oh, that's amazing. Honestly, thank you so much for that was a lot in such a short time. That really was, and I understand why you were saying that we definitely need a long time to kind of break down these things.
Absolutely. I mean,
Each question is
yeah,
like a
yeah.
whole segment.
Hmm.
But no, I think this is
It's a whole.
great nuggets. Yes,
Cool.
it's great nuggets for our viewers, our entrepreneurs that are viewing this episode today. And when you talked about, three things, I think the three things that you mentioned, here I am putting up 4 fingers. The three things that you mentioned in terms of, cost, cutting the cost of, for operation,
Mhm.
or increasing the cost of the goods. And then what was the third one
The
would be the
volume, increasing the
option,
volume of production, the volume.
the volume of production. And so
Exactly.
I love that you mentioned obviously the most no brainer would be decreasing the cost of operation. And
Exactly.
and that brings me to, expenses, the word expenses. And I think you touched upon it a little bit, but how can entrepreneurs effectively manage their business's expenses, to maximize their profit? So you already mentioned the
Mhm.
cost of,
Mhm.
decreasing or cutting the cost, but what advice would you give in terms of decreasing the operation expense, but not necessarily decreasing the quality
Mhm.
and things of that sort, and also answering the question for our entrepreneurs on effective ways that they can just quick tips on how they can manage their expenses.
Okay. All right. So, very, very important. Experience, like I said, is an important aspect of your revenue or of your profitability as a business, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because when you expense all your line items, now that triples down into profitability. So if you don't manage those expenses, like your cost of goods sold, like your operating expenses, like SG&A, which is your selling, your general, your administrative, your interest expense on your debt that you borrow from the bank as a business, and then of course your tax expenses, right? All these
Right.
things you have to efficiently manage it because that has a huge impact on your profits. In other words, your cash flow, your free cash flow. So the free cash flow is what is left after you paid your expenses, you paid your debt, and then that will also tell us whether you have enough to be able to engage in profitable expansion and all that. Now, for me as an investment strategist, when I'm analyzing a business, the most important thing for us today is free cash flow. The
Mm.
reason is cost has become so expensive. Borrowing has become so expensive. You go to the bank, you borrow, and you have to pay the fixed interest terms. Labor has become so expensive. Cost of production has become so expensive. So after paying for all these things, I want to see what is left because that would tell me whether you have enough to be able to scale up your business. That would tell me whether you have enough to engage in research and development and all that. So now let's deal with the issue of expenses. First of all, what I tell businesses that are into production and all that is you have to have stronger partnership with your suppliers. And a way to do that is to engage with them in negotiating as to if you can maybe extend the terms of payment, right? So that you can have enough cash flow, use that cash flow to invest into other areas, generate profit, and then you can pay them. So in accounting, we call that account payable. Account payable is you paying your suppliers. So if let's say initially I use 20 days to pay my suppliers, you can negotiate with them to maybe pay them, use 40 days to pay them. When you do that, you have cash sitting there where you can use those cash to reinvest into your business, grow the business, and then you can pay them. So that is one way of managing your expenses, right? Then the second thing I also say is rent has become a very huge component of our businesses. Now, I
Absolutely.
see people who can go virtual and yet they are still paying rent. I ask them, why are you still paying rent if you can go virtual with your business, right? There was a client that I visited a couple of days. I went to their office, he and the wife, and I saw their office space. It was so huge. And I asked him, and I said, Mr. Light, why do you have all this office space? You can sublet some of the office space to somebody to pay off the rent. So these are some of the strategies you can put in place where you can sublet some of your office space. You don't need all the space. You don't need, unless maybe it is very relevant, but you need to assess your business. Listen, if you can do away with the rent, if you can sublet some of your, sublease some of your space to somebody, you have to do that. You have to take drastic measures to really cut down your costs, right? And another way you can also do to really manage the issue of cost, which a lot of us don't really pay key attention, especially when we have employees, is to reinvest into our employees. A lot of us don't do that. We don't invest into their skill set. We don't invest into their education. When you do that, that increases productivity, right? And then it also reduces the cost of labor turnover because a lot of the time, if employees are not satisfied, guess what? They leave.
They
And then we
leave.
have to
Yeah.
spend more money
More
to
money.
hire other people. So why not invest into your existing employees so that we reduce the labor turnover within the organization, right? And that will save you some money. So for me, if you tackle this critical areas, trust me, you will save a lot of costs. And then another very important thing I want to add is marketing, subscriptions. A lot of us have, in quotes, costs that we don't need, right? Some of us are paying huge costs as far as marketing is concerned, and we are paying a lot of subscription costs that we don't even need for our business. You can do away with all some of these things, right? And then look for efficient ways of managing your cost if you have to do that.
Absolutely. And you know what? One of the things that I do with our clients at Tech Remedy, which is a digital marketing agency here in the DMV area, one of the things we tend to tell our clients, if you don't need it, right?
Yeah.
There's no need to get it
That's
on board,
not me.
that SaaS tool, that whatever subscription, how you're mentioning. And then I love that you mentioned, it looks like the overarching message here is that entrepreneurs need to plan properly. Start
Exactly.
with the end in mind.
Right.
Obviously, there will be a lot different iteratives. I think is the word that they call in the in IT industry.
Yep. Yep.
We as a Scrum Master, you start with different sprints, and then you iter. There will be different iteratives as you continue to grow.